Everyone, welcome to Humareso Live presents the HROI 2023 workshop preview. I am today's moderator for this conversation. I'm Sarah Morgan, and I am the Director of Equity and Inclusion for Humareso, and I'm also the creator of the H-ROI Summit. I started the summit back in 2020 as a way to provide affordable, practical, comprehensive learning for attendees who wanted to build more equitable and inclusive work environments and to learn more about anti racism and pay equity as topics. And in the 3 years that have followed, we've seen a lot of similar events pop up in the space and decided with the help of Humareso that now was the time to bring this event back. So, thanks to the wonderful HROI community, we voted on what the sessions would be for this year, and we selected three: high impact onboarding and orientation, the T on talent, and workplace safety, the new recipe for workplace safety. And so I've got with me three amazing women who are going to be leading these workshops today. And I want you to have the opportunity to meet all of them, to learn more about them, and to get just a little bit of information about what the summit is going to entail and what you're going to learn from these fabulous workshop leaders. So I am going to start by letting them introduce themselves so that I can talk less and they can talk more. And we're going to start with BJ Anderson. BJ, welcome to the stream. And please tell the viewers a little bit about you.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm BJ Anderson, as already noted, and I have been in HR, human resources, for 24 years. I'm currently the director of HR operations here at Humareso, and I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to introducing the H-ROI Summit that's coming and what our contributions will be. I'll be speaking about onboarding and the importance of that is to retention of employees, attracting employees, and that experience in and of itself speaks to how uh, their work life, work will be throughout the organization.
Thank you, BJ. Kirsten.
Hi, everyone. I am Keirsten Greggs. I go by Trap Recruiter. I bring trust, relationship building, accountability, and a proactive approach back into the talent acquisition lifecycle by bridging the gap between employers and job seekers. And I will be doing, well, I'll be pouring some and spilling some tea on talent at the H-ROI Summit. Very excited to be here. 23 years of experience in TA and looking forward to connecting with everyone.
Thank you so much. Lorena. Lorena's on mute. Oh, there
Okay,
she
there
is.
we go. Yes. So I'm Lorena. I've been doing HR for a good almost 10 years at this point. I work for Humareso as a senior HR administrator and team lead, and I will be joining BJ with onboarding and orientation talk. So I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. And as I've already said, I'm Sarah Morgan, and I will be leading the summit on the new recipe for workplace safety. And I want to start our conversation off today by asking the group, what do you see as the biggest struggle for organizations in finding talent? And Kirsten, since you're going to be leading our session and spilling the tea and pouring the tea, I want to start this question off with you. What do you see as the biggest struggle for organizations finding talent right now?
Well, I'm just going to give a sip right now because this is a preview. So I will say in general, it's engaging in practices that decrease the overall talent pool and increase the marginalization of historically excluded communities. So, not having enough or an unequal distribution of recruiting resources, like recruiters, like sourcers, like coordinators, and even the tools and the tech that we use, having inefficient processes, taking too long to interview people, not communicating with people throughout the life cycle, posting jobs that aren't real, or posting jobs, posting bad job ads, forcing people back into the office for roles that they have been doing successfully remotely, and or requiring that people be within a commutable distance to an actual location for so-called remote roles. And then, the issue is that the internet has just made folks a little bit lazy. So that's the tea for now. I'm interested to hear what the other ladies have to spill.
That tea is hot. Okay. BJ, what is your response to that, and what would you have to add?
Well, I certainly agree with everything Kirsten's already said, but I think that it's important that people know that when you're considering people, that you recognize them for what it is when you're already doing your interviewing and your recruitment, that you know what it is that they're looking for in the workplace. That has to be equally as important to the candidate, the employee that's coming on board, as well as the company. And I agree with the diversity, accepting people, inclusion, which is really important, and already having processes and procedures in place for that. So it's one thing to be able to bring in the folks that you need that are different, because we are all different, but also being able to include them in every area of the business.
Lorena, what would you add?
I would say transparency is a big one for me in the hiring process. I think that one of the biggest issues I'm finding is that when we're trying to sell a job, we're so focused on filling that position that we're not necessarily painting a real picture. And it's very important to paint a real picture because you don't know what the candidate's circumstances are, and you want to make sure that they understand what it takes to be in that specific role.
Does the candidate experience have an impact on an organization's ability to find talent? If the organization, as Lorena pointed out, doesn't have a transparent process, or if the organization may get a reputation for receiving applications but not responding it, or in a positive note that they are very communicative. Like, does the candidate experience have an impact on an organization's struggle or an organization's success in being able to find talent? BJ, I see you nodding.
Yes, I'm thinking of the fact that we live in a much different world than we did even 20 years ago. And everything is transparent when you consider social media and all of those, places like that, in which employees know before they even make the application to your organization what you're going to be like and how you
Mhm.
operate. It's so transparent and so open already, so that you want to make sure that your and brand is the truth first and foremost, and that your brand is there for them to see what is available to them in the organization and how you operate and what your culture is like, etc.
Lorena, what would you add?
I would say that also when it comes to the brand experience of repeating more or less what BJ said or highlighting it. Um, we when some candidates, and this is something that people sometimes don't believe, but when I used to recruit, and I'm kind of happy I don't anymore, but when I used to recruit, when they were going to these pages, they would actually address comments. Like if there was a negative comment in Glassdoor or anything like that, they would actually put you on the spot. So it's not
Mm.
only you want to see the good stuff reflected as your brand, but if there is bad in those pages, you should be able to, I mean, you should do your homework and go there, so that way you're not surprised when they ask you these questions and you have to kind of address them.
Yeah, I can remember Lorena as well having to respond to negative feedback on Glassdoor when people would post, and figuring out the most like appropriate way to respond. At one point in time, I did a whole presentation called Art of the Corporate Clapback that talked about how you respond to negative feedback online. And it really is important for part of your brand to not just let that negative feedback sit out there unaddressed, but to find a way to balance the two of those. And I appreciate you for bringing that up as a part of this conversation. So, Keirsten, you are not new to this. You are true to this when it comes to recruiting. Every time you try to get out, they drag you back in. So when you when you think about the candidate experience and its impact on an organization's ability to attract talent, what are the kind of feedback points that you want to dangle out there for people to know?
I'm 100% echoing the sentiments of both Lorena and BJ. They are 100% correct. Employer branding is a department now. So we know how important it is that we get those things right in efforts to have a positive candidate experience. And just like BJ mentioned, things are different. The internet is available and people are putting out information about your company, whether good or bad, that's going to impact how you are able to recruit better. And one thing that I will talk about from a tactical perspective, you could have all of the great things. Like you could have a great reputation and people might be coming to your job, to your career site to apply. You know, they were referred there. They know other people who work there. Everybody says working here is great. They love your products and services if that's what your business model is. But if it takes them too long to fill out that application, they're gone. Like
Mm.
most people are not even going to get to hitting submit if there's too many barriers to them being able to apply for a job easily and quickly. So
Hmm.
that affects the candidate experience too. You're not even getting folks to become applicants. You're losing them before they even have any type of touch point with someone inside of your organization.
That's important. I think that's great. A great point as well, and something that we continue to hear is those barriers to entry and the ways that we make the application process more difficult than it needs to be. We joke all the time about, I've uploaded my resume and now I still have to type in my information. My son was applying for internships earlier in this summer, and me doing the work that I do, of course, he wants me to work that alongside him, and I was amazed. I remember seeing one where he uploaded his resume, and then there was a cover letter section, and then there was like a series of questions that he had to type out the answer to, that to me very much were like interview questions. And they were like, these answers should be 100 to 250 words. For an internship, there were like five or six of them. I was blown away. And so ultimately he was like, nah, I'm not doing this. And I think that that happens far often with candidates before they even get into your system, for you to have the opportunity to talk with them. The process and the way that you actually bring people on board becomes a barrier in and of itself. And that candidate experience, particularly when you're selling a product or service, now it makes me think twice about whether or not I want to give you my business in some other way. Like if I'm applying for a job at my local coffee shop and the application process is super cumbersome, I don't even want your latte no more. Like I don't even want to be bothered with you because you've made this process so difficult and so unpleasant for me that now it's like it has left a bad taste for me in terms of what I actually, me wanting to interact with you at all. So let's switch gears, because we've talked about talent. We've talked a little bit about the candidate experience. But another piece of what we're going to be talking about in the H-ROI Summit this year is onboarding and orientation. And we're calling our session High Impact Onboarding and Orientation. And we named it that very intentionally because we know how important this particular process is to the individual who's being hired. Orientation and onboarding is important for their success. It's important for the team. It's important for the organization. And statistics abound about how that impact that you make on someone when they start a job within the first 30 days sets the stage for them and what it is they're going to do within your organization potentially for the next 30 months, 30 years, and so you want to make sure that experience is the very best that it can be. And so, BJ, I want to start with you and ask, what is the biggest missed opportunity that organizations are skipping over during the orientation and onboarding process? We lost you. Are you muted? There you are.
It's the bane of my existence.
I know that.
But as we were talking about,
tricky.
It is. So as we were talking about earlier, it's important from an onboarding and standpoint that when you talk about employees coming into your organization, you've already had the opportunity to take time to get to know them, even through the interview process and such. So it's important that it's personal to them when they come in through an onboarding and orientation process, that you have a process per se, not that you just absolutely, go fly off the off of your mind trying to think of what to do, or somebody's starting and you just hand them a bunch of paperwork when they start, instead of just having a meeting with each employee. We'd like to meet individual meetings with the employee when possible. We could do it as a team effort if possible, but you just have to indoctrinate employees right away. And I know that it's important. I remember, now this is crazy because it was years ago, many, many years ago, but I remember walking into one of the organizations, the first job that I went into, and I was just completely shocked that there was a sign there welcoming me. That made it personal to me. And that's what I think is most important, that it has to be personal to each of the candidates or employees that you're bringing on.
Yeah. I love that one of my previous companies, we, as a part of the onboarding, the person would upload a photo of themselves, a headshot, or whatever photo they wanted to share, and that would then be in the system as their picture. But we would put it on in the lobby when they came in to say, welcome so and so, to the organization. And I remember experiencing that, and just like, it's like, mama, I made it, my picture is on the screen, and just knowing that they are excited about my arrival, in that kind of a way, versus other situations where you show up and no one is there, waiting to greet you. You introduce yourself and they're like, who you here for? And now it's this frazzledness of trying to find the person. It doesn't feel good for you coming into this environment that's strange to you, to walk in and have that be, your introductory experience into what's going to be your employer, this place where you're bringing your talents to hopefully make a difference. And they acting like they didn't even know that you were coming. So definitely that personal touch, I think, is a great point, BJ, on ways that we can do better. Lorena, what would you add?
I would add not only the personal touch, but also, the first day is information overload. And a lot of people mistake onboarding to be the first day or the first week. And this is an ongoing process that can last up to a year, like 6 months to a year, depending on the position, depending on the industry, the company. So I think there's got to be some repetitiveness sometimes with that information, because on the first day you're nervous, you're excited, you are signing a lot of paperwork that you might have forgotten or not received if you online, because I know that a lot of it is done now in computers, but some companies are more paper based than others. So even though you've told your new hire, this is how we do this, this is the company's mission, vision, and values, you want to continue to check in with them and continue to provide that information for them so that they can actually, continue to put out that information out there and do their work based on the company's mission and vision.
Keirsten, coming from the recruiting end and then you're handing off these candidates that you've worked with sometimes for weeks and months to bring them now on board. What do you see as some of those missed opportunities for organizations in that orientation and onboarding process?
Well, it's exactly what you said. It's the sloppy handoff between where recruiting ends and where onboarding begins. I've worked for very large global organizations, so I can appreciate both Lorena, you and BJ pointing out or making a distinction between orientation, which is a program on a day during your first week or on your first day, and actual onboarding as a process, as an ongoing, continual thing. So not having onboarding teams or a team of people, or even if you're in a small org, one person who's dedicated to onboarding, that causes some friction, because the way that you're brought into the organization impacts how excited you're going to be to work there and how long you're going to stay. You guys have heard me tell this story before. I worked someplace for 9 days because they were not there when I got there. And it was horrible. Didn't have anything ready for me, didn't have a place for me to sit, didn't have my laptop ready, didn't have this. And they're like, oh, well, you're going to orientation in a couple hours.
Well, what am I supposed to do?
You'll get that when you get back from orientation, that kind of thing. That's not a good situation. It's when it becomes an afterthought. So yeah, making a distinction between onboarding and orientation, and then having a team. And again, the handoff has got to be clean. There has to be your recruiters can't also do your onboarding. Your coordinators can't also do your onboarding. So
yeah, someone definitely has to own that process, and I think that we take for granted how important that is. And so I'm glad for BJ and Lorena and their expertise and the leadership that they're going to be giving to this workshop, and giving insights and information that our attendees can take with them and apply within their own organizations. So my last question, because we said we were going to keep this brief today, we like a Domino's pizza, 30 minutes or less. My last thing that I wanted to ask you all today, and this one is a little cheeky, but I'm going to ask each of you, what do you hate most about professional development workshops? And to that end, what do you see about the H-ROI Summit and the session that you're going to be leading that's going to be different, so that the people who hate the things that you hate will not be hating on what they're going to learn here? And Lorena, I want to start with you.
Sure. This was a tough one for me, but sometimes I think the one thing that I notice with a lot of these workshops is that they're very general and very holistic, and it's a one size fits all, and it doesn't go into the intricacies that every company has. Things change industry by industry, company size as well. Factors in when it comes to these, recruiting strategies and onboarding strategies. So when you're doing a workshop, you kind of have to think a little bit more of the audience to kind of make it more focused on that. So I would say that's what I might find a little bit annoying about some of these workshops out there.
And what do you think is going to be different about your session in the HROI Summit that will address some of that?
Well, I mean, at least for BJ and I, we work at, for Humareso, and we have clients from different industries and, the different company sizes and all that fun stuff. So I think we'll be able to have a better idea of like touching points that affect different types of companies. And that's not to say we'll cover everything, because there's so much information out there. And again, it's not a one size fits all, but I think that with that background, we'll be able to be more specific with what we're going to bring to the workshop.
Thank you. BJ?
So to piggyback a little bit off of what Lorena is saying from that perspective, the challenge for me, or the way I see things, is that our time is a premium, so to speak, especially in human resources. And so it's important that the description of the programs be as succinct as they can be, so that you're making sure you're choosing the program that's going to be most relevant to what it is that you do, what it is that you want to gain from it when you attend it. And so if I have any frustrations, it's when I go to the ones that I think it's going to be one thing, that it turns out to be something different. And that's a challenge. And so as Lorena said, when we're doing our program, we want to make sure that we're going to be able to be relevant with the information that we're bringing forth, so that people, and useful, so that people can actually utilize the information that we'll be providing during that time, while making it fun at the same time.
Keirsten?
So you all know me, and I'm going to say it a little more bluntly than Lorena did, because that is my answer. Yeah. So when we are leaning on just the trendy topics, even when they're not a value add or addressing any of the pain points that we actually have, it turns these things into like sales meetings instead of learning experiences.
Yeah.
So that's what I hate about them. Like, and the way that you've organized this, you literally asked people, what are you most interested in hearing about? That's how you avoid these type of things, where you're just like, oh, well, everybody's talking about this now, everybody's talking about that, but that may not be an issue for your organization. That may not be a skills gap in your organization. So why are you signing up for it? Oh, because the most popular person on this topic is selling a book and they want to come and talk about it. So that's mine. And sorry if I stepped on any toes.
No. And so you are going to be spilling the tea on talent, and
Yeah.
what is going to be different about your section? Obviously, you're not selling a book yet.
Yeah. Oh, I heard yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that yet into the universe.
I heard yet.
We're not selling a book yet, but what is different about your section?
Well, I'm still a practitioner too.
Yeah.
And that is a little bit different. And that is no disrespect or to anyone who is an industry leader that doesn't actually still do recruiting. That's not to say that they're not skilled and that they're not qualified. But me still being a practitioner, I see the daily I see the daily issues, and I'm very close to what other recruiters are feeling at the time. And of course, it'll be interactive and fun, because that's just what I am. Let your soul glow.
Let it shine through. So yeah, and so for me, leading the session on the new recipe for workplace safety, I really see workplace safety as evolving into something that not only includes your physical safety and your traditional safety program, where you're doing your OSHA related kind of things, and what happens when you have a near miss or an accident, but also what do we do to create psychological and emotional safety. And the reason why I think that's so important is that it ties heavily into successful organization culture and into reporting culture. And we don't talk enough about that when we talk about safety, is that people's willingness to report when they have had a near miss, when they violated a safety, when they bypassed something and now they've cut themselves or whatever, like their willingness to come forth with that is directly tied into the safety that they feel within their culture to be able to make mistakes. And so I want to bring that to the forefront and look at the ways that we approach safety from a new and different lens in a way that I believe will help organizations to save money on their accidents and incidents, and also create better holistic health and wellness for their employees in the process. And to me, the what the three of you are saying as we talk about these sessions, like this is really the growth that I wanted to see come out of the H-ROI Summit when I first created it, is to take other people who have that same passion for practicality, who have that same passion for the practitioner, who have that same passion for making sure that the information that we're sharing is relevant and scalable and useful across industries. That's really what I wanted this to be about and what I wanted other leaders and practitioners to be able to learn. And so I'm so thankful to the three of you for agreeing to rock with me on this latest journey. I'm so grateful to you for your knowledge and your expertise that you're going to be sharing with our audience. And I'm grateful to the audience today for logging in their midday, taking a little lunchy lunch break for 30 minutes with us to learn a little more about each of us, to learn a little bit more about the H-ROI Summit. And please, make sure you can see the links, the QR codes here on the page. Please make sure that you click that. Take an opportunity to learn more about the summit. Take advantage of these early bird rates while they are still available. And we are looking forward to seeing you online in October for the H-ROI Summit. 3 days of three powerful 3-hour workshops with the four of us. And so thank you again for tuning in today. We'll be back in September talking a little bit more in detail about psychological safety and safety in general in the workplace. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.